Everyone, welcome to The Council Seeks Ignorance. Today, I'll be explaining DPDP Chapter 1 and 2. So, further ado, let's get started. As we have already discussed in our first video, that India now has a Data Protection Act, but the duties of companies and rights of users are not fully live yet. On 14 November 2025, the government brought the DPDPA into force, notified the DPDP rules, and created Data Protection Board. But the real compliance obligations like consent, breach reporting, children's data, etc., will only be legally enforceable on 14th May 2027. So right now, we are in transition period. The law exists, the regulator exists, but the businesses are being given time to prepare. Let's get started with Chapter 1. So the Chapter 1, Section 1 of the Act does something very important. It tells us that this law does not come into force all at once. The government can notify different dates for different provisions. This is how India is implementing DPDP in phases. Now, let's get on to Section 2 of Chapter 1, which defines the legal actors, which is very important for us to know so as to understand the Act and rules. First, a data principal. A data principal is the person whose data it is. It is me and you whose data is being collected. If the person is a child, the parents count as the data principal. If the person has a lawful guardian, the guardians act on their behalf. Next is personal data. Personal data means any data that can identify a person. It can be name, it can be email address, IP address, medical records, location data, etc. If you can link the data to a human being, it is personal data. Digital personal data. A digital personal data is simply personal data in digital form. This law does not actually apply to paper files unless they are digitalized. Next is data fiduciary. A data fiduciary is the most important concept. This is a person or a company that decides why data is collected and how it is used. If you use a banking app, the bank is the data fiduciary. If you use Instagram, then Meta is the data fiduciary. Next is a data processor. A data processor is someone who processes data on behalf of a data fiduciary. For example, if Instagram stores data on Amazon Web Services, then Amazon Web Services is the data processor. Amazon Web Services, it does not decide what happens to the data, it only follows the instructions of the data fiduciary. Next is the Data Protection Board. The Data Protection Board is a regulator that will enforce this law. It will investigate breaches, hear complaints, and impose penalties. That is the legal architecture. Next, we come on to the Chapter 2. Chapter 2 talks about when and how data may be processed. Chapter 2 is where the real control begins. So, Section 3, it talks about where the Act applies. This is something which we have already discussed in Chapter 1. So, it will be really helpful if people who are watching this also watch my first video. So, Section 3 talks about that the Act applies if the data is processed in India or the data is processed outside India, but the services are offered to people in India. Example, if a US company runs an app used by Indians, then DPDP Act applies to that company. Again, this act does not apply to personal or domestic use. It does not apply to data a person has made public himself or herself. Uh, this for this, the act also gives an illustration where it says that if X publishes her own personal information on social media, then DPDP does not restrict others from seeing it. So if I release my name publicly, then I cannot say my privacy has been breached, considering I'm the one who has let out my personal information myself. We discussed till section 3 of chapter 2 of DPDP. Considering the video is getting really long, so I'll be discussing section 4 onwards in my upcoming videos. So please stay tuned. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more clear explanation for Indian laws. Thank you.